Chapter 7, 1. Moringa Origins. There is a theory that says at one time, most of all, the land masses were connected on one continent, known as Pangaea, figure 6:1, which would explain several mysteries surrounding plants and animals and how they got to their current location. Some would argue that there were even a small population of ancient people already on Pangaea, a single landmass, and they traveled with the continents to their present-day locations, as it separated very slowly. This theory could explain how moringa is native to both India and Africa today. It could have traveled as man cultivated and used its benefits to prevent malnutrition. The Moringaceae family of trees consists of 13 types of moringa. Today, in Africa, there are 12 types of native moringa trees, while in India, there is only one, the Moringa oleifera. As the story goes, there was a shift in the tectonic plates, and Pangaea began to split apart, and the continents began to drift into their present-day positions. One of land masses, now known as India, is said to break away from Pangaea, traveled across the ocean of many years, hitting the Eurasian plate, where one of the ancestors of Moringa oleifera tree was also on that landmass and arrived. It is conclusive that there were several other plant species and even some animals that were also on that landmass. From that time, the moringa tree localized in modern-day India and Pakistan, where it evolved into something very similar to what we see today, but man also played a huge part in creating the modern-day moringa tree. Moringa is unique because it has the ability to be agriculturally cultivated. It produces high-quality greens, seeds, and oil. Moringa was even mentioned in the 4,000-year-old texts in India known as the Mahabharata, and there are even references to moringa in the Bible. But from the time it arrived in Asia and man began hybridizing the tree, it took many years for it to turn into the Moringa oleifera we see today. Hybridization is the practice of taking more desirable traits from one plant and breeding it with another plant in the same family. This selective breeding is how we have dogs from wolves. The original moringa trees had little leaves and very tiny seed pods, very similar to the creation of modern-day blueberries and strawberries. Man would pollinate different types of moringa trees that had desirable traits like bigger leaves or more seed production. They even increased the amount of oil in each of the seeds. That's why moringa in India has been given the name Moringa oleifera. Ole is Latin for oil, and ifera means producing, giving the newly hybridized version of moringa in India the name Moringa oleifera. This process took thousands of years. There is a big difference between hybridization and GMO. Almost all the food we eat in the store comes from an original wild plant. Then, through selective breeding and hybridization, man created hybrids of plants to obtain the variety of foods we see in the grocery store. Now, more recently, companies have been genetically modifying foods to speed up that process, while also injecting seeds with herbicides and pesticides. That process is known as a genetically modified organism, GMO. Moringa oleifera today has a particularly high oil content. That's the reason why Moringa oleifera became so popular in most recent years, is because of the high oil content, to create a more desirable and productive crop with lots of oil. The highly nutritious and consumable greens are just a beneficial byproduct of producing moringa seeds for the oil. Usually, hybridized plants do not have the efficacy or potency of wild original herbs that were not hybridized by man. This is why Dr. Sebi, an African herbalist, did not technically approve of Moringa oleifera in his nutritional guide, Mucus-Reducing Alkaline Diet. He stated that for true healing, it can only be done with an original herb, not hybridized by man. But Moringa oleifera is used extensively in Ayurveda, the ancient Indian medical system. Moringa still has all the benefits and claims that is said, but much like any plant, it must have those vitamins and minerals in the soil for them to be present in the leaves or seeds. It all starts in the soil. Figure 7.2 South Indian Moringa farmers. Northern Indians will say Moringa oleifera originates from northern India. Southern Indians will say Moringa oleifera originated in southern India. Today, there are several universities and agricultural science labs throughout India who develop different varieties and strains of Moringa oleifera, like the one we grow mostly in Florida, the PKM1, which originates from the city known as Periyakkulam, PKM, in the state of Tamil Nadu, India, an agricultural city in southern India. Today, India is an agricultural juggernaut producing 9.5% of the world's food and accounting for 80% of the world's moringa supply. Knowing the climate in Periyakkulam, India will help growers in other parts of the world. Your growing conditions should be about the same as Periyakkulam if growing moringa trees for seed and oil production. The moringa trees will need 2 to 3 years of growth without any frost or cold snaps to really establish big enough roots to produce thousands of drumsticks a year, which ultimately will produce tens of thousands of seeds to press and receive the valuable oil. Chapter 7.2 3 Region Types. There are 3 major region types around the world that are suitable for growing moringa: subarid, arid, subtropical, tropical, and temperate. Each region should be approached with precision and met with precautions for the best possible outcome. Although one may harvest fresh greens from moringa trees within the first 30 days, it can take more time to get consistency from your trees. Typically, someone growing moringa can make an income within 30 days from fresh greens, but the trees will take time to fully mature. If any kind of cold weather will slow the moringa tree's production. It can take 1 to 2 years to really get a feeling for growing moringa trees and the amount of time and labor it takes to get final products from your trees. Since moringa is native to subtropical regions, it does not withstand colder weather very well. If a moringa tree stalk, trunk, or branch is met with temperatures below freezing, then the water on the inside of the bark will freeze. The Moringa oleifera bark is so thin that the water on the inside of the trunk and sticks can freeze, killing any part of the tree that gets hit with lower than freezing temperatures. If your tree is exposed to sub-freezing temperatures, it could still come back from the ground if the roots did not get damaged. The moringa tree can regrow entirely new trunks from below the surface. The roots could bring your tree back to life in the spring. There are ways to extend your growing season with greenhouses and more training further in this section. Grow moringa anywhere in the world as a short bushy tree in the summer as an annual. We will discuss further in this section how and when to grow moringa in temperate zones. Moringa is also drought tolerant and can be planted in semi-arid and arid conditions. If moringa trees are properly planted and managed in dry zones, it can be very productive with an abundance of greens in the first year, and as the tree matures, it can produce seeds for commercial use by the second or third year. The most ideal regions to grow moringa all year are subtropical and tropical regions. It is very important to implement concepts like permaculture design principles and incorporate these special techniques into your moringa operation. Generate even more biomass with a successful system that uses natural environmental influences. That's why the first rule in permaculture is observation. It's imperative to know where the flood zones, hot zones, and wind patterns are before planting a moringa tree. Permaculture is defined as permanent agriculture, unlike the modern industrial agriculture complex, which consists of many farms across the world that deplete the local soil each year. On the other hand, permaculture institutes quality of life and longevity with less man-made inputs, as the system becomes more efficient. Commercial agriculture requires the constant need for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides applications to ward off pests and diseases. This is now the standard, but why? Sacrificing the environment for profits. Some major issues with modern agriculture is the sheer scale that larger farms are reaching, with spans of one crop as far as the eye can see. Monocropping has far too many downsides to continue along this destructive path. It's no longer sustainable. The only way to counterbalance some of those practices are to band together as small-scale growers and farmers, as co-ops and collectives. Moringa permaculture food forests and agroforestry sites can be the new startup opportunity for many entrepreneurs. Small-scale moringa farms can operate with cheaper costs, less inputs, with far greater yields and outputs that are more beneficial to the local ecosystem and pollinators, with little to no machinery while using smaller equipment and more useful technology. Sub-arid and arid regions. Even in extreme heat and low water precipitation, moringa trees can outgrow and outperform many other commercially grown crops in semi-arid and arid conditions. It is important to note that moringa trees grow well in community environments, much like people. It is imperative to add as many other plants as possible, choose supportive and companion plants, and place them around moringa trees. Use only local species adapted to arid conditions so that they don't have other irrigation requirements. Spend more time learning the biodiversity of your arid region to know more about what should be planted near or around moringa trees as companion plants. Once your semi-arid, arid property has established a more reliable water source, you can begin to sprout moringa seeds in small pots or biodegradable pellets. Essentially, you want to create a small moringa nursery in a greenhouse. Germinate as many small trees as you can. There could be loss, especially if it's your first year planting anything. Account for extreme weather patterns to kill many of your young trees. Mistakes can happen. Keep the moringa trees protected, but still able to flow and breathe with fans and wind. Before planting any moringa trees in the ground, take the time to sprout them and prepare them adequately in small pots in a protected plant nursery or greenhouse zone with irrigation and shade. A small greenhouse is a crucial element and proper step in being able to expand your operation in all region types. Take the time while your trees are sprouting in the greenhouse to be more prepared for a more permanent site design. Observe the property. Notice where the water flows and wind flows. Use the data to build an idea of where certain moringa trees should be planted. Develop specific planting techniques from an on-site analysis. Once your site analysis is complete, pick a good time of the year for planting. If you do not have irrigation set up, wait to plant any moringa trees outside until the start of the rainy season. Even in semi-arid and arid regions, there is 1-2 month period that rain chances are higher. Plant moringa during these times. The main goal of any moringa growing site in a sub-arid arid region is to retain as much water from the property as possible. Working the ground level and adjusting where features are located can help create more shade and store water during a rare rain event. Earthworks are a very important design concept. On your property, create man-made hills and valleys, almost constructing a golf course condition. If you have more steep slopes, construct terraces with leveled areas to plant moringa microgreens. On more flowing undulations, create swales on contour known as key lining. Even well-placed ditches and small ponds help to store more water while the local groundwater rises below to feed your moringa tree roots. Focus on water first. Build the fertility of the soil. If you really want outlasting success in semi-arid, arid conditions, construct an effective underground irrigation system. In Nazca, Peru farmers use an ancient irrigation method known as a puquio, consisting of a series of spiraled holes interconnected with an underground aqueduct. These ancient irrigation systems still in use can move water uphill. They're highly sophisticated pressure systems allowing water to travel uphill to irrigate crops on mountaintops, with terraces directing the water to flow throughout the hillside crops. A company in Coachella Valley, California, USA, has developed a hybrid method for growing moringa in a semi-aquatic environment while in the desert. This breakthrough method includes an interconnected watering and fertilizer system for growing moringa trees in the desert. Learn more about this patented growing method at biocolumn.com. The founders specialize in aquaponic systems. Combining their love for moringa, developed a semi-aquatic method for watering, fertilizing, and establishing moringa trees in the desert. From what we can see in this photo, the ground level was prepared with several layers of rock. There appears to be spray nozzles positioned on the shade cloth poles. There could also be irrigation tubes strategically placed under the rock. There is not much we know of what is below the soil from the photo, but each tree is in a hollow vertical tube protruding from the ground, like a column. The moringa tree is planted in the center of the tube with composted soil. The drawing in figure Ch.7. Below is not bio-column designs. Instead, it is an example of how members can plant moringa trees in the desert using a vertical tube. The section drawing below is an artistic interpretation of a method for growing moringa trees in the desert and is not a bio-column design. In the drawing below, the moringa trees are not connected by an aquaponics system with nutrient feeding tubes under the soil. Instead, each moringa tree is on their own watering drip line, which can also carry liquid nutrients. Keeping organic matter close to the roots is facilitated by using a vertical tube. Make several holes in the vertical tube so that the roots and worms can expand and pass through the tube below the soil. In the diagram, the vertical tube is cut in half so that the tree may also be able to expand as the root tuber forms. The local dirt around the vertical tube was removed, a pit was dug, and after the vertical tube was placed in the center of the pit, composted soil is used to fill the pit and the inside of the tube. In addition to adding a shade cloth over top, like in the bio-column photo, some growers may want to add an extra layer of protection for sprouting seedlings in the ground. You can incorporate a small, semi-clear greenhouse structure covering the young moringa seedlings, almost like an upside-down bowl. This greenhouse addition can be removed once the moringa tree has sprouted and forms leaves. It's good to have this greenhouse dome covering the moringa seed as it's germinating to help regulate the moisture levels in the soil, preventing the seed from drying out. Having your seeds covered with some type of greenhouse condition can reduce the time it takes to sprout a moringa seed in a nursery or pot with higher germination rates. Instead of transplanting moringa trees into the ground from pots, plant the seed directly in the ground. The Grow Moringa method for arid regions. Numbers key from figure. 1. Moringa tree sprout can be planted as seed directly in the ground. Seeds can sprout in as little as 6 days and sprout greens within 15 days. Moringa trees are ready to harvest within 30 or 45 days. Once it is cut back, it regrows more branches for more harvests every 45-60 days throughout the growing season, typically a summer crop. 2. Moringa root tuber. The young tree roots begin to form a tuber after about 30-60 days. The roots extend beyond the tuber. The tap root will shoot directly downward. Several roots can shoot out from the side. Those are called lateral roots. Don't transplant or move a moringa tree before it has formed a root tuber. The root tuber is important for metabolism and storing sugars for energy. 3. Composted soil, inside tube. The vertical tube is holding in moisture and protecting the little seed from drying out. The soil inside the vertical tube should be neutral in pH and highly nutrient dense, with activated biochar and mycelium to help build the newly forming roots. The inner soil should have great drainage with perlite and should not be acidic or smothering. It should have lots of air pockets and light in weight without any big chunks of bark or debris. It should be well sifted and only consist of fine particles, making it easier for the roots to absorb nutrients. 4. Vertical tube. The main vertical tube the moringa tree is growing out from. It can be made from a variety of different materials. Several types of safe plastics are acceptable. Do more research and find a biodegradable material or something safe to use as a vertical tube that you may be able to source locally. Before planting, cut the tube in half long ways so that the trunk and roots can expand and drill several large holes scattered throughout the tube's length. 5. Composted soil in pit. The pit should be about 2 to 3 in diameter and about 3 to 4 deep. After the pit is dug and the vertical tube is in place in the center of the pit, begin placing composted soil in and around the tube, filling the pit while keeping the vertical tube in place. Once the vertical tube is in the center and filled with soil, overflow can begin to fill the remaining parts of the pit. The vertical tube should protrude an inch or two above the composted soil level. 6. Compacted ground rock and sand. The local ground is going to be very dry, rocky, and compacted. It could be very difficult for little moringa trees to get established in the local soil. Dig a large enough hole or pit that will give the young tree enough space to spread its roots out in a more conducive environment. Spread the local soil from inside the pit around the area. 7. Irrigation tubing. Can be thin and flat when it's not inflated with water, but this project may need something more durable, and so a thicker PVC pipe can be used. The water from the pipe will leak directly from a hole that you make with a special tool. The hole is placed directly into the pipe that's known as a drip. The pressure built up across the entire line causes the water to drip evenly out of each hole down the pipe. 8. Water drip. Do not place the holes directly over top the moringa seed, seedling, or tree roots. The drip holes should be as far apart as possible to each other and drip into the root zone area to encourage a strong root base. Do not place holes for the water to drip directly over the roots. 9. Local rock. Take the local rock or have a neutral pH balanced rock, not lime, that is small enough to cover the irrigation tubing but not cause it to puncture. In some cases, sand can be brought in and rock placed on top of that. If the rock and sand does not touch the base of the tree should do well. Moringa does not grow well in acidic environments or alkaline environments. The rock would need to be neutral in pH. 10. Ground staples are used to keep the small greenhouse dome in place. They are standard nursery staples used to traditionally pin down nursery ground cover plastic, but they can be used for this purpose as well. They don't need to be super big. They can be small ones or larger ones about 3/6 long. The success of the staples depend on how compact the soil may be around the pit area, and if your greenhouse dome is bigger than the pit you dug. The staples and greenhouse dome can be removed easily once the moringa seed has sprouted and has several leaves. 11. Plastic greenhouse dome is helpful in regulating the humidity and moisture for sprouting the moringa seed. Find unused material or anything at hand to help make the dome. It could be made from a variety of materials. A clear plastic bowl, for example, could have several holes drilled all around while it's stapled to the ground. It will keep the sun from directly hitting and drying out the seedling. During the germination period, you want the seed to remain moist. If you decide to sprout the moringa seed in the ground, the plastic greenhouse dome option will help increase germination rates in your moringa seeds. If you implemented the method of growing moringa trees in arid conditions from figure what ear, you can begin to upgrade your site as the trees get larger. As the young moringa tree ages in the ground and the vertical tubing is no longer big enough to contain the moringa root ball, it can be removed. That's why it's good to cut the tube in half before planting. Then, as the moringa trees get larger, remove the vertical tube and construct a circular container around the root ball as shown in the fig tree orchard pictured above in figure 1. There are some composite materials and root ball containers that already exist for growing trees in the desert. It's possible to construct the container yourself out of concrete. Since the desert can be a harsh environment, it's still recommended to have some type of container around the root ball. The goal is to keep fertile soil around the root of the tree for added protection. Putting a circular or square barrier on the ground, like a flashing or container, is good to contain the composted soil around the moringa trees. Keeping the moringa trees with a container around the root ball in arid conditions helps to keep composted soil from losing moisture around the base of the tree and maintains a healthier balance of microorganisms and fungi in the soil near the moringa root ball. Putting some type of structure or container barrier at the base of the moringa trees will ensure a healthier, more productive tree while the canopy is still being formed. The young moringa trees may need some extra help in the early years, especially in desert conditions. Give each one of your moringa trees the best possible chances of survival with these helpful techniques. Olive orchard. Pictured above is an olive orchard, an example of how you could grow moringa trees in extra large pots. Each moringa tree can start in a small pellet pot, then transplanted to a 3-gallon container. Then, over time, continue to be potted up into larger containers for 2 to 3 years, until eventually, after several years, being placed in a much larger container such as these. It could be beneficial to grow moringa trees in large containers above ground because they can be grown to maturity and transported to their new home. Subtropical and tropical regions. Do not underestimate the power of the tropical sun and rain to erode exposed soil. Any time that you find bare soil on your property, you should instantly be thinking about how you can cover that soil with oak mulch. This will lower the soil temperature, increase nutrient cycling, improve water retention, and so much more. An oak mulch dressing overtop your semi-tropical and tropical zones is the most effective. Local tree trimming companies and the Department of Transportation need places to dump wood chips. Typically, tree trimming companies need to pay for dumping their wood chips. They are happy to drop chips off at your location for free. Other types of top dressing can be anything from grass clippings to pea gravel to chopped banana trunks. Use other companion plants and fast-growing tropical trees that can be chopped regularly as a chop and drop method of feeding the local soil and your moringa trees. The organic material will break down slowly and act as a living mulch. There are also several types of ground cover crops that are essential for a successful semi-tropical and tropical moringa operation. Good tropical ground covers include perennial peanut, mimosa, sweet potato, and squash, Okinawan spinach, and many beautiful ornamentals. Moringa is a pioneer crop. It can often be the first plant in the system to spark the life needed to make other plants grow well. Most land in the tropics are working with degraded prairie or hillsides that were formerly cattle pasture. Most subtropical and tropical land is not prime farmland. Many of the plants grown commercially will struggle in the soil. It's not as easy as picking up a bag of soil from the store either. That stuff won't be alive with microbes and beneficial bacteria. Bagged soil has been pasteurized. Fortunately, soil is the component of our ecosystem that we can change the fastest. By actively promoting microbial health, planting moringa trees and other plants, shrubs, ground covers, providing fungal biomass, and reducing erosion, we can quickly turn a semi-tropical, tropical site's soil productivity to sustain more life. Soil fertility requires consistent maintenance. Each year, the soil will continually need organic matter added on top. Mostly, a layer of new oak mulch works well. The area will need to be lifted and layered on top of the other to keep the soil from erosion causing potential root rot. There are a few things you can do when planting moringa trees in subtropical, tropical regions. First, always make sure that your plants are grown in healthy, well-drained soil, preferably enriched with organic matter and kept moist. Plan for heavy rains and allow for water to flow around the base of your trees. Direct the flow of water away from the roots. Do not plant moringa trees in a low laying area or in too deep of a hole. They can be built up slightly on mounds. 1. Moringa root tuber forms under the soil after the moringa sprout has been growing for about 30 to 60 days from seed. Once the root tuber is formed, it has more storage capacity and the ability to withstand a transplant. Try not to move moringa trees around too much or destroy the soil around the roots before they have a root tuber. 2. Composted soil is mixed in with local ground soil to make a mound. Composted soil fills the inside of the mound. Plant the moringa seed or the root tuber on the top part of the mound. You want to make sure the root ball will form above the water line. Subtropical, tropical area can flood, and keep the moringa high and dry is important for success. Use sandy, loamy soil that already is hosting life, with microbes, mycelium, worms, added minerals, and biochar. 3. Local ground conditions can be enhanced with added composted soil, moisture, and mulch protection. The local ground could be depleted and void of nutrient. It may not be able to hold any moisture. Because subtropical, tropical regions have extreme heat and humidity, the soils are lacking microorganisms due to sun exposure. You don't always need new added soil to plant a moringa tree. You can use the existing ground soil to make a mound. Dig a big circular trench about 5 in diameter and place all the soil in the center to make a mound. You'll be planting the moringa tree on that mound, and the trench will be an area for water to settle in rainy season. 4. Pit depth should be about 1 to 2 deep. Before you begin digging the circular trench and piling soil in the center to make a mound, dig a hole in the middle of where the mound is going to be and pile the soil around the pit. This will loosen the soil around the center of where the root tuber will be and allow the taproot to easily be placed below the current soil line. Then begin digging a trench around the pit, piling local ground soil around the pit, adding composted soil around the pit to increase the pit depth. Then, fill the pit with composted soil after planting the seed or placing the moringa seedling in place. 5. Composted soil height should only be about 4/8 above the ground level. In subtropical tropical conditions, we are trying to keep the tree above flooding. Plant high and dry is the saying. It can be a large mound made out of composted soil mixed with the local ground soil. After the circular trench is dug, a pit can be made. Decide if you are going to transplant a tree in the pit with an existing tuber, or if you are planting the seed and sprouting the tree directly in the ground. 6. Mulch topping is the most important component to protect your moringa trees. Do not leave the job until the tree has been protected with oak mulch chips overtop the soil. Oak mulch chips help to regulate the moisture levels and reduce heat, saving the beneficial microorganisms. Avoid using pine and palm mulch on top of the trees. Save that kind for the walkways. Do not pile the mulch on heavy ground near the top of the mound. The mulch should not touch the root tuber or stem. 7. Mulch height is thinner at the top of the mound than on the sides. On average, the base of the mound has a thick layer of mulch. Then towards the top of the mound, the mulch is thinner, keeping the mulch pile from looking like a volcano. You want the base of the tree to be high on the mound so that the position of the stem is not submerged. Pull the tree higher up out of the composted soil toward the top of the mound and keep a layer of oak mulch over top of the mound. 8. Drip connectors can be placed on the mound or off to the side. This irrigation nozzle is important for regular watering to help the moringa tree get established. The drip connector is best, not a spray nozzle. Instead, allow the water to drip directly on the mound. Added watering will prevent the moringa tree from going into stress during hot and dry months before rainy season starts. Drip irrigation will help keep your leaves greener during dry spells. Overwatering will cause the leaves to yellow. 9. Irrigation tubing can be above the ground or under the soil. In the drawing above, the drip connector is connected to a tube above ground. Sometimes in commercial systems, it's better to have the tubing above ground because machinery, working other plants, digging holes, and cutting back grass can affect ground tubing. The main line is best suspended about 3 from the ground. Connect the raised tubing with metal poles about every 3/5 apart. Several drip connectors can be positioned throughout the line near key plants needing local irrigation. 10. Trench is a ditch that is dug in circle around the mound. Start the trench several feet away from the center of the tree. It should be about 5-10 in diameter. The bigger circumference of the mound, the better. The trench will fill with water in the rainy season, keeping your moringa tree high and dry. Pile the dirt from the trench into the center to create the mound. Spread the mound out as wide and flat as possible. The trench can also be the same location as the edge of grass. Temperate regions. The solution to growing moringa in colder temperate zones is planting the trees each year as an annual crop. This style of growing annually is used for other crops like lettuces, beans, and squash. Annual plants will need to be replanted each year. They have a short lifespan. When plants are grown in colder regions and they can return from winter on their own with new branches and leaves without needing to be reseeded, they're called a perennial plant. Moringa is usually a deciduous plant by nature in warm tropical climates with green leaves all year, but in subtropical regions during the winter, moringa will shed their leaves and go into a dormant state. If they don't sustain extended periods of frost conditions, moringa trees will return on their own with fresh new branches and leaves in the spring as a perennial. In temperate regions, moringa is considered an annual plant and will need to be replanted by seed or cutting each year. It's most likely too cold for the moringa tree to survive the winter on its own in temperate regions. Moringa bark is very thin, preventing it from being able to protect the water inside the stems from freezing. The moringa trees can still be grown for the fresh greens in temperate zones all summer long. The moringa trees in temperate regions don't need to grow to maturity and produce seeds for the trees to be valuable. There are many benefits to growing moringa as an annual for fresh greens, dried greens, and powder. Moringa trees can be grown anywhere in the world during the summer season as a short, bushy annual. The moringa trees will not survive through the winter, but during the summer, each acre can be planted as an intensive style method of growing. Moringa trees can be grown close together as small sprouts, like microgreens. This style of growing moringa in temperate regions helps to produce biomass in a short amount of time. The fresh greens can be sold to farmers markets and local buyers. Most of the supply can be dried and used as loose tea. Then the leaves can be powdered for human, plant, and animal consumption. The powder can also be encapsulated. The green leaves are a valuable source of protein, vitamins, and minerals. The most valuable part about growing moringa for biomass is the fresh greens. They can be used to make biostimulant on site. Use biostimulant made from moringa leaves on other crops to increase yields up to 40% more. Spray biostimulant made from moringa on your tomatoes and peppers. Moringa has a hormone in the leaves known as zeatin, which is a fast-growing hormone that can be extracted and used as a liquid biostimulant to feed other plants. There are about 2,000 moringa seeds on the raised bed above in figure en passe. It started as a hugelkultur mound about a year prior to planting. It began as a pile of sticks and branches that had fallen from around the property. There were also moringa cuttings added from leftover harvests. The pile took an entire summer season to build up, but it was about 2 to 3 high and about 12 long, x4 wide when complete. The moringa cuttings began to break down fast, and I was able to cover the pile of moringa sticks with a thick layer of composted soil and oak mulch. Then I let that sit over the winter. Time allowed it to break down even more. By the spring, the raised bed was ready for planting. I flattened out the top by walking on it, compressing the mound. I added a layer of composted soil to the entire top and sides, then evenly spread 2,000 moringa seeds to the top. After that, I added another thin layer of soil and a thin layer of oak mulch on top of that to cover the seeds. After about a week, several hundred sprouts were bursting through the soil. By the end of the first 30 days, the raised bed was super productive with all 2,000 moringa trees sprouting in this picture above. This method is most recommended for growing moringa over the summer in temperate zones. For maximum production in temperate regions, plant 100,000 moringa seeds on 1 acre using the intensive style method. The seeds can be planted 6 apart on rows using a tractor, or they can be spread evenly using a broadcast method. Cover the moringa seeds lightly with soil, and they should sprout within 6 to 14 days with proper irrigation. The rule is, cover a seed the same depth as the seed is tall, so the seeds should be covered by 1-4-1-2 of soil. The intensive method for growing moringa, as seen in the picture above figure. This is how you would grow moringa in temperate zones. Plant 100,000 trees on 1 acre. Upon starting the season, each tree will sprout, and over the course of the season, some of the trees will naturally die, thinning the plot to 50,000 trees halfway through. Then, only having about 5,000, 10,000 trees by the end of the season, they can be removed and sold as tubers or tilled back into the soil for nutrient. Each plot of 1 acre that is fully planted with moringa in the intensive method can produce about 1 to 2 tons of dried powder each season. Begin to germinate seeds after the last frost when temperatures have reached 70°F overnight. Then, within the first 45 days, the trees will be ready for a harvest. Harvest the greens every 45 days for the summer season. This is the best way to grow moringa for profit in the summer in temperate regions. If you are in a temperate region and would like your trees to grow much larger, you can plant them in a greenhouse. Greenhouses can help moringa trees survive during the winter and protect them from frosts and cooler winds. If you can get your moringa tree to reach a mature age of 1 to 2 years, they could even produce flowers, drumsticks, and seeds. Growing moringa in the greenhouse helps to prevent frost exposure, but they could still go dormant in the winter and shed their leaves. If the stems and roots don't touch the frost or reach below 32°F inside the greenhouse, they should be able to survive. In temperate regions, moringa trees usually come back from a dormant winter to flourish in the summer as a perennial. Moringa trees can grow up to 1 foot a week in the summer. Due to extended periods of frost and cold in temperate regions, the moringa trees will not survive through the winter outside of a greenhouse. During the summer, a grower could remove the plastic from the greenhouse and keep the hoop structure intact, allowing the moringa trees to stretch even larger. In the spring and fall, the plastic can be replaced. Before the first frost event, moringa trees can be trimmed back to 2-3 us tall. They will remain dormant through the winter and regrow new stems and leaves each spring and summer. The moringa tree may not look the same year after year. It will morph and shape drastically with new stems. Many times, after a trim, new stems will crowd each other, and many will need to be thinned, pruned, and removed, creating a whole new direction, pattern, and look for the trees. Moringa trees are ever moving and changing, unlike many hardwood trees that do not grow back stems and limbs so easily. Moringa, on the other hand, is a tropical tree and regrows stems and branches very rapidly. In the picture above, the large moringa trees are strategically placed in raised beds on the ground so that the trees can get larger. You may only get a few trees in this space. Another method for growing moringa in temperate zones is using the intensive method, planting the trees very close together, like a microgreen, and allow the trees to grow like a lettuce and harvest them every 45 days. They can grow in the ground in the soil with the greenhouse overtop. The plastic walls of the greenhouse can be rolled up along the sides to allow cross winds. Having a greenhouse regulates the temperature and humidity for moringa's hot-loving temperament. The plastic can also protect the small young trees from getting too much sunlight. Although moringa trees like it in the full sun as a mature tree planted in the ground, young seedlings and sprouts can use a little extra protection to produce nice, dark, fresh greens. They should be protected with some shade cloth or greenhouse. There is another strategy to utilize when growing moringa in a greenhouse in temperate regions. In the image below, the moringa seedling that is being held up is in a biodegradable pellet pot. We ship them the mail all over the country. The moringa seeds can sprout in 6 to 14 days. Then they're ready to ship within 30 to 45 days. The trays that hold the moringa seedlings are sitting on plastic pallets that are raised by concrete blocks. More details about this greenhouse construction in the design chapter. We're growing thousands of moringa trees in greenhouse conditions just like this. Chapter 7.3, Soil Regions. Soil is a living organism. A single gram of healthy soil contains millions of organisms, including earthworms, nematodes, mites, insects, fungi, bacteria, and actinomycetes. Soil is a frontier for exploration. Only about 1% of soil microorganisms have been identified. Soil processes recycled nutrients, including carbon, so that living things can use them repeatedly. Soil stores water. A 1% increase in organic matter in the top 6 inches of soil would hold approximately 27,000 gallons of additional water per acre. Soil stores vast quantities of carbon. Scientists say that more carbon resides in soil than in the atmosphere and all plant life combined. There are 2,500 billion tons of carbon in soil, compared with 800 billion tons in the atmosphere and 560 billion tons in plant and animal life. Soil mismanagement has contributed to climate change. The world's soils have lost between 50–70% of their original carbon stock, much of which has been released into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Soil is in trouble. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, estimated that 33% of soil is moderately to highly degraded through erosion, salinization, compaction, acidification, chemical pollution, and nutrient depletion, hampering soil's function and affecting food production. Soil that is not covered with vegetative matter is vulnerable. Soil is being swept and washed away 10 to 40 times faster than it is being replenished. We can rebuild carbon stocks in the soil. A considerable part of the depleted soil, organic carbon, SOC, pool can be restored through conversion of marginal lands into restorative land uses, adoption of conservation tillage with cover crops and crop residue mulch, nutrient cycling, including the use of compost and manure, and other systems of sustainable management of soil and water resources. The methods of growing moringa in this manual reflects the Grow Moringa Collective's best management practices, with permaculture and regenerative agriculture systems in place to reduce erosion and replenish the soil's microbiology and moisture retention. Each region in India has a specific soil and climate that is only suitable for certain types of farming. Many regions on the western side of India experience less than 50 centimeters of rain annually, so the farming systems are restricted to cultivate crops that can withstand drought conditions, and farmers are usually restricted to single cropping throughout the year. Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab, and northern Maharashtra all experience this climate, and each region grows such suitable crops like jowar, bajra, and peas. In contrast, the eastern side of India has an average of 100–200 centimeters of rainfall annually without irrigation, so these regions can double crop. West Coast, West Bengal, parts of Bihar, UP, and Assam are all associated with this climate, and they grow crops such as rice, sugarcane, jute, and many more. Soil is the mixture of rock debris and organic materials which develop on the Earth's surface. However, that is only the physical aspect of the soil. The living parts of the soil give it the ability to sustain life. Based on genesis, color, composition, and location, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, has classified soils into 8 categories. They are alluvial soil, arid or desert soil, black cotton soil, red soil, laterite soil, mountainous or forest soils, saline and alkaline soil, peaty and marshy soil, bog soil. Characteristics of alluvial soil: is younger in composition, it's immature, and has a weak profile due to recent origin. The alluvial soils vary in nature from sandy loam to clay. Pebbly and gravelly soils are rare in this type of soil. Alluvial soil is porous due to its loamy nature. Alluvial soil is generally the best for agriculture use, as the porosity and texture provides good drainage condition. These soils are continuously replenished by seasonal floods. Chemical properties of alluvial soil. Alluvial soil is generally rich in potash, but poor in phosphorus. The nitrogen percentage is generally low. The color of the alluvial soils varies from the light gray to ash gray. Its shades depend on the depth of the deposition, the texture of the materials, and the time taken for attaining maturity. Presence of alluvial soil in India. Apart from the northern plains, they are found in the plains of Gujarat. In the peninsular region, they are found in deltas of the east coast and in the river valleys. They also occur in deltas of the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna, and the Kaveri. Here, the soil is called deltaic alluvium. Alluvial soil covers about 40% of India's total land area of the country. Crops grown in alluvial soil. Alluvial soil is best suited for agriculture and irrigation. They support crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, jute, maize, oilseeds, vegetables, and fruits. Black soil. Parent rock for most of the black soil are the volcanic in origin that were formed in the Deccan Plateau. These are found in the region of high temperature and low rainfall. These soils are also known as the Regur soil or the black cotton soil. Characteristics of black soil. The black soils are generally clay, deep, and impermeable. In general, black soils are more fertile in the uplands than the valleys. They swell and become sticky when they are wet and shrink when are dried. So, during the dry season, these soils develop wide cracks, due to which they are called self-plowing. The black soil retains the moisture for a very long time because of slow absorption and loss of moisture, which helps the crops, especially the rain-fed ones, to sustain even during the dry season. Chemical properties of black soil. Black soils are rich in lime, iron, magnesia, and alumina. They also contain potash, but they lack phosphorus, nitrogen, and organic matter. The color of the soil ranges from deep black to gray. Presence of black soil in India. Black soil covers most of the Deccan Plateau, which includes parts of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and some parts of Tamil Nadu, near Periyakkulam. In the upper reaches of the Godavari and the Krishna, and the northwestern part of the Deccan Plateau, the black soil is very deep. Crops grown in black soil. Black soils are best suited for cotton crop, hence the name black cotton soil. Other major crops: wheat, jowar, linseed, tobacco, castor, sunflower, and millets. Rice and sugarcane are grown where irrigation facilities are available. Black soil also supports the growth of large varieties of vegetables and fruits. This soil has been used for growing a variety of crops for centuries, without adding fertilizers and manures. Red and yellow soils. Also known as the omnibus group, it covers about 18.5% of the total land area of India. It is found in regions of low rainfall, eastern and southern parts of the Deccan Plateau. Along the Piedmont zone of the Western Ghats, a long stretch of area is occupied by red loamy soil. This soil is also present in parts of Odisha and Chhattisgarh and in the southern parts of the Middle Ganga Plain. The red color is due to the presence of iron in crystalline and metamorphic rocks. The soil appears yellow when it is in hydrated form. The fine-grained red and yellow soil is usually fertile, while the coarse-grained soil is less fertile. This type of soil is generally deficient in nitrogen, phosphorus, and humus. Wheat, cotton, oilseeds, millets, tobacco, and pulses are mainly cultivated in red and yellow soil. Desert soils. Also known as arid soil, it accounts for over 4.42% of the total land area of India. The color ranges from red to brown. Desert soils are sandy to gravelly in texture, have low moisture content, and low water retaining capacity. These soils are saline in nature, and in certain regions, the salt content is so high that common salt is obtained by evaporating water. These soils have normal phosphate content, but are deficient in nitrogen. Due to increased calcium content in the lower horizons of the soil, there is the formation of conchar layers. These conchar layers restrict the penetration of water, and as such, when water is made available through irrigation, the soil moisture is readily available for sustainable plant growth. Desert soils are profoundly found in western Rajasthan and contain little humus and organic matter. Laterite soils. The name has been derived from the Latin word later, which means brick. It accounts for about 3.7% of the total area of the country. These are typical soils of the monsoon climate, which is characterized by seasonal rainfall. With rain, lime and silica leak away, and soil rich in iron oxide and aluminum are left, leading to the formation of laterite soil. Laterite soil is deficient in organic matter, nitrogen, phosphate, and calcium. However, iron oxide and potash are in abundance. Although low in fertility, they respond well to manures and fertilizers. Laterite soils are found in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, and hilly regions of Assam and Odisha. Red laterite soil in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh are well suited for tree crop cultivation like cashew nuts. Laterite soil hardens rapidly and irreversibly on exposure to the air, a property that leads to its use as building bricks in southern India. Mountain soil. This type of soil is found in the forest regions where rainfall is sufficient. The texture of the soil depends on the mountain environment where they are found. These soils are coarse-grained in the upper slopes and loamy and silty on valley sides. In the snowbound areas of the Himalayas, these soils undergo denudation and are acidic with low humus content. The soils found in the lower valleys are fertile, also called forest soil. Peaty and marshy soils. These soils are found in regions of heavy rainfall and high humidity, and it supports the good growth of vegetation. Peaty soils are rich in humus and organic matter. These soils are generally heavy and black in color. In many places, these soils are alkaline. These are found in southern Uttarakhand, the northern part of Bihar, and the coastal areas of West Bengal, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu. Soil regions of USA. Now that we have a little more understanding of the soil types in India, where moringa is native, let's take a deeper look into USA soils so that we know where moringa could grow well here. Scientists recognize about 70,000 soil types in the United States alone, and 12 soil orders used to classify those soils. These soil orders also occur around the globe. They are known as entasols, inceptisols, andisols, mollisols, alphasols, spodosols, ultisols, oxysols, gelisols, histosols, aridosols, and vertisols. Gelisols, from the Latin gelare, to freeze, are soils that are permanently frozen, contain permafrost, or contain evidence of permafrost near the soil surface. Gelisols are found in the Arctic and Antarctic, as well as at extremely high elevations. Permafrost influences land use through its effect on the downward movement of water and freeze-thaw activity, cryoturbation, such as frost heaves. Permafrost can also restrict the rooting depth of plants. Gelisols make up about 9% of the world's glacier-free land surface. Histosols, from the Greek histos, tissue, are mainly composed of organic material in their upper portion. The histosols order mostly contains soils commonly called bogs, moors, peatlands, muskegs, fens, or peats and mucks. These soils form when organic matter, such as leaves, mosses, or grasses, decomposes more slowly than it accumulates, due to a decrease in microbial decay rates. This most often occurs in extremely wet areas or underwater. Thus, most of these soils are saturated year-round. Histosols can be highly productive farmland when drained. However, draining these soils can cause them to decompose rapidly and subside dramatically. They are also not stable for foundations or roadways and may be highly acidic. Histosols make up about 1% of the world's glacier-free land surface, mostly in Louisiana. Spodosols, from the Greek spodos, wood ash, are among the most attractive soils. They often have a dark surface underlain by an ashy gray layer, which is subsequently underlain by a reddish, rusty, coffee-colored, or black subsoil horizon. These soils form as rainfall interacts with acidic vegetative litter, such as the needles of conifers, to form organic acids. These acids dissolve iron, aluminum, and organic matter in the topsoil and ashy gray horizons. The dissolved materials then move to the colorful subsoil horizons. Spodosols most often develop in coarsely textured soils, sands and loamy sands, under coniferous vegetation in humid regions of the world. They tend to be acidic and have low fertility and low clay content. Spodosols occupy about 4% of the world's glacier-free land surface, largely in Florida. Andesols, from the Japanese ando, black soil, typically form from the weathering of volcanic materials such as ash, resulting in minerals in the soil with poor crystal structure. These minerals have an unusually high capacity to hold both nutrients and water, making these soils very productive and fertile. Andesols include weakly weathered soils with much volcanic glass, as well as more strongly weathered soils. They typically occur in areas with moderate to high rainfall and cool temperatures. They also tend to be highly erodible when on slopes. These soils make up about 1% of the glacier-free land surface, northwestern USA. Oxysols, from the French oxide, are soils of tropical and subtropical regions, which are dominated by iron oxides, quartz, and highly weathered clay minerals such as kaolinite. These soils are typically found on gently sloping land surfaces of great age that have been stable for a long time. For the most part, they are nearly featureless soils without clearly marked layers or horizons. Because they are highly weathered, they have low natural fertility, but can be made productive through wise use of fertilizers and lime. Oxysols are found over about 8% of the glacier-free land surface. They are known to occur only in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Guam. Vertisols, from the Latin verto, turn, are clay-rich soils that contain a type of expansive clay that shrinks and swells dramatically. These soils therefore shrink as they dry and swell when they become wet. When dry, vertisols form large cracks that may be more than 1 meter, 3 feet deep, and several centimeters or inches wide. The movement of these soils can crack building foundations and buckle roads. Vertisols are highly fertile due to their high clay content. However, water tends to pool on their surfaces when they become wet. Vertisols are in areas where the underlying parent materials allow for the formation of expansive clay minerals. They occupy about 2% of the glacier-free land surface. Aridisols, from the Latin aridus, dry, are soils that occur in climates that are too dry for mesophytic plants, plants adapted to neither too wet nor too dry environments to survive. The climate in which aridisols occur also restricts soil weathering processes. Aridisols often contain accumulations of salt, gypsum, or carbonates, and are found in hot and cold deserts worldwide. They occupy about 12% of the Earth's glacier-free land area, including some of the dry valleys of Antarctica. Ultisols, from the Latin ultimus, last, are soils that have formed in humid areas and are intensely weathered. They typically contain a subsoil horizon that has an appreciable amount of translocated clay and are relatively acidic. Most nutrients are held in the upper centimeters of ultisol soils, and these soils are generally of low fertility, although they can become productive with additions of fertilizer and lime. Ultisols make up about 8% of the glacier-free land surface. Mollisols, from the Latin mollus, soft, are prairie or grassland soils that have a dark-colored surface horizon. They are highly fertile and rich in chemical bases, such as calcium and magnesium. The dark surface horizon comes from the yearly addition of organic matter to the soil from the deep roots of prairie plants. Mollisols are often found in climates with pronounced dry seasons. They make up approximately 7% of the glacier-free land surface. Alphasols, from the soil science term pedalfer, aluminum, and iron, are like ultisols, but are less intensively weathered and less acidic. They tend to be more inherently fertile than ultisols and are in similar climatic regions, typically under forest vegetation. They are also more common than ultisols, occupying about 10% of the glacier-free land surface. Alphasols are mostly in California, but small areas are in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Utah. Inceptisols, from the Latin inceptum, beginning, exhibit a moderate degree of soil development and lack significant clay accumulation in the subsoil. They occur over a wide range of parent materials and climatic conditions, and thus have a wide range of characteristics. They are extensive, occupying approximately 17% of the Earth's glacier-free surface. Entisols, from recent, new, are the last order in soil taxonomy and exhibit little to no soil development other than the presence of an identifiable topsoil horizon. These soils occur in areas of recently deposited sediments, often in places where deposition is faster than the rate of soil development. Some typical landforms where entisols are located include active floodplains, dunes, landslide areas, and behind retreating glaciers. They are common in all environments. Entisols make up the second largest group of soils after inceptisols, occupying about 16% of the Earth's surface, dominant in the southwestern parts of the USA. Moringa can be successfully grown in soils with good drainage like red loam, red sandy loam, clay loam, and sandy loam soils. Moringa roots are highly sensitive to waterlogging. Chapter 7.4 Climate Regions. Climate regions of India. There are 3 different types of crops that are cultivated throughout India. Each type is grown in a different season depending on their compatibility with certain weather. Kharif crops are grown at the start of the monsoon until the beginning of the winter, relatively from June to November. Examples of such crops are rice, corn, millet, groundnut, mung, and urad. Rabi crops are winter crops that are sown in October, November months and harvested in February, March. Its typical examples are wheat, boro paddy, jowar, nuts, etc. The third type is zaid crops, which are summer crops. It is sown in February, March, and harvested in May, June. Examples are moringa, ash paddy, vegetables, and jute. India is home to an extraordinary variety of climatic regions, ranging from tropical in the south to temperate and alpine in the Himalayan north, where elevated regions receive sustained winter snowfall. The nation's climate is strongly influenced by the Himalayas and the Thar Desert. The Himalayas, along with the Hindu Kush Mountains in Pakistan, prevent cold Central Asian katabatic winds from blowing in, keeping the bulk of the Indian subcontinent warmer than most locations at similar latitudes. Simultaneously, the Thar Desert plays a role in attracting moisture-laden southwest summer monsoon winds that, between June and October, provide the majority of India's rainfall. Tropical wet. The most humid is the tropical wet climate, also known as tropical monsoon climate, that covers a strip of southwestern lowlands of India near Kerala. There is also a tropical dry climate is even more common areas in India. Noticeably drier than areas with a tropical monsoon type of climate, it prevails over most of inland peninsular India. Arid and semi-arid regions. A tropical arid and semi-arid climate dominates regions where the rate of moisture loss through evapotranspiration exceeds that from precipitation. It is subdivided into 3 climatic subtypes: tropical semi-arid steppe, arid climate, tropical and subtropical steppe climate. A tropical semi-arid steppe climate, hot semi-arid climate, predominates over a long stretch of land south of Tropic of Cancer and east of the Western Ghats and the Cardamom Hills. The region, which includes Karnataka, inland Tamil Nadu, western Andhra Pradesh, and central Maharashtra, gets between 400 to 750 millimeters, 15.7 to 29.5 in, annually. It is drought-prone as it tends to have less reliable rainfall due to sporadic lateness or failure of the southwest monsoon. This is the predominant climate that Moringa is most accustomed. It never reaches freezing temperatures here, yet it is drier and hotter than most areas of India. Subtropical humid. Most of northeast India and much of North India are subject to a humid subtropical climate and a subtropical highland climate. Some moringa trees can grow here, but it can experience colder temperatures here, sometimes freezing. Mountain. India's northernmost areas are subject to a montane or alpine climate that are not conducive for moringa to grow naturally. Winter. Once the monsoons subside, average temperatures gradually fall across India. As the sun's vertical rays move south of the equator, most of the country experiences moderately cool weather. Altitude affects the temperature to a large extent, with higher parts of the Deccan Plateau and other areas being relatively cooler, barely reaching below 16°C, 60°F. Moringa grows naturally throughout the country because it rarely reaches below 16°C. Summer. Summer in northwestern India starts from April and ends in July, and in the rest of the country from March to May. The temperatures in the north rise as the vertical rays of the sun reach the Tropic of Cancer. Monsoon. The southwest summer monsoon, a 4-month period when massive convective thunderstorms dominate India's weather, is Earth's most productive wet season. During the post-monsoon or autumn months of October to December, a different monsoon cycle, the northeast or retreating monsoon, brings dry, cool, and dense air masses to large parts of India. Winds spill across the Himalayas and flow to the southwest across the country, resulting in clear, sunny skies from October through November. Droughts. Indian agriculture is heavily dependent on the monsoon as a source of water. In some parts of India, the failure of the monsoons results in water shortages, resulting in below-average crop yields. This is particularly true of major drought-prone regions such as southern and eastern Maharashtra, northern Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, western Orissa, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. El Niño-related droughts have also been implicated in periodic declines in Indian agricultural output. Periyakulam rainfall. Typically, India moringa season begins in February-March. As it begins to warm, the rains begin to return more consistently. Then, throughout the summer, moringa matures and is ready to harvest the seed pods by August-September before monsoon. This prevents mold and bacteria and fungus to spread to the leaves and drumsticks. Then the trees are harvested short. They don't have a lot of weight and mass to break branches during the storms during that time. Then another harvest can be made in Navdek. The trees slow down slightly in production during the winter, although it still stay warm. Another harvest can be made in Feb-March to prepare for the new season again. Climate region of USA. The annual mean precipitation in the contiguous United States is shown in figure 6-18 below. Two patterns stand out: the gradual transitions east of the eastern flanks of the Rockies versus the heterogeneity in the west. In the west, the rainfall patterns are strongly controlled by topography and proximity to the Pacific Ocean. Places east of a NS-oriented mountain range, such as the Cascades of Washington and Oregon, are drier than places at the same elevation on the west side of the same mountain range. A second pattern dividing east from west is that in the east, it tends to be wetter to the south, where the Appalachian Mountains height keeps warmer air towards the south, which largely originates over the Gulf of Mexico. In the west, it is wetter to the north, with only the temperate rainforest, as most frontal systems stay north, especially in summer, keeping the southwest USA arid and dry. The climate of the United States varies due to changes in latitude and a range of geographic features, including mountains and deserts. Generally, on the mainland, the climate of the U.S. becomes warmer the further south one travels, and drier the further west, until one reaches the west coast. The southeast is wetter and more tropical. Western half of the U.S. has a cold, semi-arid climate in the interior upper western states, to warm to hot desert and semi-arid climates in the southwestern U.S. east. The climate is humid continental in northern areas, transitioning into a humid temperate climate from the southern plains and lower Midwest east to the middle Atlantic states until reaching tropical zones in the southeast. A Mediterranean climate prevails along most of the California coast, while southern Florida has a tropical climate, the warmest region on the U.S. mainland. Hawaii and the U.S. territories, Puerto Rico and Guam, also have tropical climates. The primary drivers of weather in the contiguous United States are the seasonal change in the solar angle, the migration north-south of the subtropical highs, and the seasonal change in the position of the polar jet stream. In the cold season, generally November to March, most precipitation occurs in conjunction with organized low-pressure systems and associated fronts. In the summer, storms are much more localized, with short-duration thunderstorms common in many areas of the southeast. In the warm season, storm systems affecting a large area are less frequent, and weather conditions are more solar, sun-controlled, with the greatest chance for thunderstorm and severe weather activity during peak heating hours, mostly between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. local time. From May to August especially, often overnight mesoscale convective system (MCS) thunderstorm complexes, usually associated with frontal activity, can deliver significant to flooding. From late summer into fall, mostly August to October, tropical cyclones, hurricanes, tropical storms, and tropical depressions sometimes approach or cross the Gulf and Atlantic states, bringing high winds, heavy rainfall, and storm surges, often topped with battering waves, to Gulf and Atlantic lowlands and coastal areas. Southwest. The Southwest has a hot desert climate at lower elevations. Cities like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Yuma, and Palm Springs have average highs over 100-degree Celsius, 38-degree Celsius, during the summer months, and lows in the 70s or even 80s. In winter, daily temperatures in the Southwest are cooler with highs in the 50s and 60s F and lows in the 40s F. With a little extra care and attention in the early stages of moringa tree growth, these areas can be very productive for moringa growers. Gulf Coast, Lower Mississippi Valley, South Atlantic states. The Gulf and South Atlantic states have a humid subtropical climate with mostly mild winters and hot, humid summers. Most of the Florida peninsula, including Tampa and Orlando, along with other coastal cities like Houston, New Orleans, Savannah, Charleston, and Wilmington, all have average summer highs from near 90 to the lower 90s F, and lows generally from 70 to 75 degrees Celsius, 21 to 24 degrees Celsius. Combined with moist tropical air, this creates the sultry summer weather conditions that prevail here. Moringa trees grow well in this area, but regions north of central Florida tend to get more frost nights a year and keep moringa from naturalizing as easily. Moringa does not live very well in the winter, if more than 1-2 nights of consecutive frosts, but moringa will grow well in these areas over the summer as an annual. Southern Plains, Lower Midwest, Middle East Coast, Mid-Atlantic. These areas can grow moringa well in the summer as an annual for intensive planting. Grow about 100,000 moringa trees on an acre over the summer in these areas. Northern Great Plains, North Central Great Lakes, New England. Even in these areas, it is not as warm in the night to keep the greens dark green. They tend to yellow out very easily in these areas, even in the summer as an annual. Pacific Northwest. These areas are a little warmer in the nights, and moringa could live here for most of the year as an annual. Replant each year with new seeds. Monsoon. During the summer, the southwest monsoon combined with Gulf of California and Gulf of Mexico moisture, moving around the subtropical ridge in the Atlantic Ocean, bring the promise of afternoon and evening thunderstorms to the southern tier of the country, as well as the Great Plains. Ch.7 Temperature Zones. There are 4 major temperature zones throughout the world, and they are tropical, subtropical, temperate, and polar zones, as shown below in Figure 6 to 26. Moringa oleifera, PKM1, originates from a tropical zone in India. PKM1 Moringa oleifera trees originates from Periyakulam, PKM, in the state of Tamil Nadu, India. Figure 6 to 27. This region is mostly hot and humid. The The annual temperature of PKM is shown below in Figure 6 Tier 28, with the lowest temperatures signified by the bottom blue line and the highest temperatures on the top red line. 16 degrees Celsius is about the same as 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which tells us the majority of moringa grown in the USA genetically are not naturally accustomed to frost conditions in its native country. The lowest annual temperature of Perioculum India helps to bring more clarity and requirements needed to recreate a healthy environment for a full and healthy moringa tree life cycle. In conclusion, moringa does not normally experience the cold and is not genetically equipped to colder climates. In colder climates, the leaves will begin to yellow from the lower branches. Then, as more the leaves thin out and begin to fall, the moringa tree goes into a dormant state. It can live in a dormant state for many months, but if frost reaches the root zone through the damaged trunk, it can result in death. In colder climates, moringa growers are being trained to grow moringa in the summer as an annual, much like a lettuce, for biomass and biostimulant production. Today, moringa has spread across the world and grows commercially around the equator extremely well. Moringa has also naturalized in arid zones throughout India and the world. It is drought tolerant, and it can live with little to no water, but that's not how to get the most production out of them. Tropical zones tend to be hot and dry most of the year, with heavy rainy seasons in the summers. That's how moringa originally adapted to extended periods of dryness in tropical areas. Most of the USA is a temperate zone, with annual frost averaging several months a year. In the subtropical zone, the annual temperatures can vary with several nights a year with frost. The hot and cold fluctuations can be attributed to weather patterns. Every few years, some winters are more severe, some summers are extremely hot. This can be attributed to one of most well-known weather patterns that affects the temperatures in the USA, also known as El Niño and La Niña. Within the USA boundary, there are several temperature zones. Florida, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii contain some of the only tropical zones, according to the USDA Plant Hardiness Zone Map. See references. Those locations have some of the most ideal temperatures for growing moringa. A small portion of the southernmost states are mostly subtropical and range from having only 1 to 2 nights of frost a year to some having more than 30 days of sub-freezing temperatures. Lower temperatures is when the moringa trees get most affected. Moringa trees growing outdoors in zones that are greener and bluer would need to be in a greenhouse or indoors during winter. Members of the Grow Moringa Collective in northern climates wait until summer to plant moringa. Moringa can grow anywhere in the world during the summer season as an intensive annual green. The Arbor Day Foundation compiles over 5,000 temperature readings to accurately determine temperature zones in the USA, 2015, with this image, Figure 6 to 8. It's clear to see where moringa can grow all year, in zones 9 to 10. Zones 8 may need a few trees in a greenhouse to survive winters, and anything below Zone 8 should grow moringa in the summer as an annual green. The image below indicates, in green, the best locations to grow moringa all year outdoors if you are in the USA. Some of these locations are experiencing severe winter conditions in 2022-2023 with multiple nights of frost. Some members are experiencing loss as their young trees die due to frost. Always prepare for damage by growing even more moringa trees than planned and growing some in a greenhouse or in pots that you can bring indoors for a few nights. Growing moringa in a greenhouse or in a pot that has been brought inside will need solar lights and fans to keep circulation. Winter temperature. The most important factor in planting moringa trees in the ground and growing them all year for drumstick and seed production is going to be the winter temperatures. The map below shows a ranking of states in winter from hottest to coldest and how winter temperatures compare across the American states. The temperatures are statewide averages calculated from temperatures recorded during the months of December, January, and February. Average winter temperatures range from a high of 67.4 degrees Fahrenheit, 19.7 degrees Celsius in Hawaii, to a low of 2.6 degrees Celsius, 16.3 degrees Celsius in Alaska. For the entire United States, excluding Hawaii and Alaska, the season averages just above freezing at 33.2 degrees Celsius, 0.7 degrees Celsius. Hottest states. Moringa can live extremely well in hot climates. As you can see from the figure below, moringa can grow extremely well in the summer throughout continental USA. Grow moringa in the summer as an annual, in the ground, as an intensive vegetable green that can be harvested within the first 30-45 days from seed. Throughout the year, the hottest states in the U.S. are concentrated in the south-central region and southeastern corner of the country. During every season, Florida, Louisiana, and Texas are consistently among the top 4 of the nation's hottest states. California is a special case because it stretches almost the entire height of the country. It's not even among the hottest 10 states in the summer, yet it is home to Death Valley, where summer temperatures rise above all others in North America. Chapter 7.6 Drought Zones. In nature, water is usually the most limiting factor for the health and growth of moringa trees. Even though moringa is a drought-tolerant tree, it still needs water to thrive. It can survive extremely harsh conditions, but it will have damaging effects. The quality of the greens, seeds, and drumsticks are highly affected by limiting water sources. Water consistency is key for a successful moringa operation. To achieve dark, leafy greens, genetic quality seeds, and edible drumsticks, make sure your moringa trees do not experience drought stress. If your property does not receive adequate rainfall or have irrigation in place, the resulting drought stress on your moringa trees can reduce the growth more than all other environmental stresses combined. Drought can be defined as the absence of rainfall or irrigation for a period sufficient to deplete soil moisture and injure a plant. Drought stress results when water loss exceeds the ability of the roots to absorb water, and when the content is reduced enough to interfere with normal processes. Moringa trees may frequently encounter drought stress if the tree is experiencing more loss of water than able to receive. Rainfall is very seasonal, and periodic drought occurs regularly throughout the USA to plants in the wild, but as a grower, you can plan for environmental conditions. Because soils in Florida are typically sandy and have low water holding capacity, many plants may experience drought stress after only a few days without water. During drought, local governments may place restrictions on landscape irrigation to conserve potable water, and landscape plants may become subject to drought stress. The use of other drought-tolerant plants and incorporating more succulents in the landscape can reduce the likelihood of your moringa trees experiencing injury due to drought stress. The time required for drought injury to occur depends on the water-holding capacity of the soil, environmental conditions, stage of the moringa tree's growth, and the health of the surrounding plants. Moringa trees growing alone without any supplemental plants may not grow as well. Moringa trees in sandy soils with low water holding capacity are more susceptible to drought stress than moringa trees growing in clay soils. Sandy soils may allow the roots to get larger and deeper, reaching for the water table. But when drought starts, those extended roots become the most vulnerable and die back first. In clay, the roots do not grow as deep and will turn towards growing lateral instead of straight downward. When moringa is grown in clay soils, the clay becomes dry from drought. That's when the clay can crack and break apart, damaging roots and exposing them to the sun in the process. A limited root system will accelerate the rate at which drought stress develops. A root system may be limited by the presence of competing root systems. Make sure other plants are not robbing the moringa tree of much needed water. Plan to distance your moringa trees from each other as your system goes through phases. You may start with density and over time, pull trees out to have greater distance between them. On average, an orchard has moringa trees tens apart from mature trees to spread their canopy. If another tree is closer than tens, they will compete for the same water source. If you plant aloe vera, small herbs, and ground covers, they will help to preserve water levels on the surface. In turn, will replenish waters that are deeper. The ground covers and herb feed on different levels of water than the trees, therefore not competing for the same water source, even though they are planted in proximity. A moringa tree with a large mass of leaves in relation to the size of the root system is prone to drought stress because the leaves may evaporate water faster than the roots can supply them. Trim the moringa trees during times of drought to reduce added stress on the roots and prevent it from losing moisture. Newly installed moringa trees and poorly established moringa trees may be especially susceptible to drought stress because of the stress and shock from the relocation. Trees that are being transplanted and live in a pot already have a limited root system because they're not growing naturally in the ground and can spread out. That is also why it is advised to prune your moringa tree back to a single short stem or trunk at the time of transplanting. That way, when it is transplanted, the leaves do not evaporate water and pull moisture from the roots. This practice of pruning during a transplant will also allow roots to get established without added stress. Avoid further shock and drought stress on your moringa tree and make sure that during a transplant, you'll prune it back without leaves so that the root system can reestablish much faster. Aside from the moisture content of the soil, high temperature, low relative humidity, and high wind speed will significantly increase a moringa tree's moisture loss, as well as environmental conditions of high light intensity. The prior environment of a moringa tree can influence the development and progression of drought stress that could lead to death. A moringa tree that has been drought stressed previously and has recovered with healthy watering levels may become more drought resistant or able to withstand another drought. Also, a moringa tree that was well watered and relatively stress-free prior to drought will usually survive drought better than a moringa tree that has been subjected to continual drought stress. The landscape environment can be modified to reduce or prevent drought stress by irrigation, regular mulching, providing shade, and creating windbreaks. Reducing the overall water requirements of the landscape is best achieved by initially designing the landscapes for water conservation, including efficient irrigation systems, proper watering, and the use of drought-tolerant companion plants where appropriate. Herbs, berries, scrubs, ground covers, cacti, succulents, and planting them in proximity and density can help to create a microclimate and protect each other from water loss without competing with moringa trees for water. Moringa is drought tolerant because it has evolved and was domesticated from arid regions and now grows well in subtropical and tropical locations. Moringa can grow well in regions with frequent drought or regions with soils of low water holding capacity. Moringa trees have anatomical or physiological characteristics that allows them to withstand drought or to acclimate to drought. Moringa trees have a waxy coating on their leaves called cuticle. This helps to a degree, but what is shocking is the root's ability to store and preserve water. The moringa leaves are designed to create airflow. Cooling the tree in extreme drought conditions helps to reduce the amount of water lost by evaporation from the leaf surface. Leaf hairs, which reduce air movement at the leaf surface, are another means of reducing evaporation from the leaf. Since the amount of surface area exposed to the atmosphere affects evaporation, the small leaf size is more resistant to water loss. In the figure above, moringa drought systems, the moringa tree on the left was subjected to extreme drought for 1 year. Throughout its 1-year lifespan, the tree on the left was placed in shallow compacted soil with very little moisture retention. It doesn't even have a single downward-facing tap root, and most root clusters are traveling laterally across the soil. Tree number 1 is stressed and only has one new branch shooting upward with some leaves. The leaves are thin and not as thick as tree number 2, and the leaves are brown and yellowing. Moringa trees avoid drought by dropping their leaves and quickly regrowing new leaves when environmental conditions improve. On the right, tree number 2 is healthy and is the same age as tree number 1. Moringa tree number 2 has a full-sized root tuber formed. The root tuber will help it to survive. If it does go into stress later, it has plenty of storage capacity and water to keep it alive through a drought. Below the root tuber is a very well-established taproot. It was much longer than that. The tiny root may have reached 3-5 down into the soil. This moringa tree is only a year old. The tree on the right has 2 new branches growing upward and has a lot more leaves that are thicker and bigger in size. The leaves are also greener in color. This is an example of how drought conditions can affect the health and growth of your moringa trees.